Hello, and welcome back to Pop Culture Graveyard. I am Hollis. With me, as always, is Dave. Hello, Dave.
Hi, Hollis.
Today, Dave, I don't know if you realized it, but we're doing our second 2019 film in a row. Booksmart was
I didn't
also...
realize that, Hollis.
Yeah.
That's not the kind of thing I realize.
That's all right. I'm working for you day and night.
I appreciate it.
Michael J. Following the 2019 film Booksmart, we are bringing you the 2019 Laugh Riot, Dolemite Is My Name. Actually, it's a sweet and inspiring movie.
But it was much more sweet and inspiring than I realized it was going to be.
Prior to watching this film, did you know anything about either the Dolemite character or its creator, Rudy Ray Moore?
Okay, less than halfway through the movie, I did something. What did I do?
You Googled?
I hit stop and went and watched Dolemite.
Did you really? That's awesome.
I did. It was halfway through because it was into the point where it was time to make the movie. And I said, is this for real?
Bitch, are you for real?
Yeah, I was like, I was picking up some mannerisms. So I was like, is this for real? So
That's great.
I paused it. I Googled because I was like, this is a true story?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I got to watch Dolemite.
Not only is it a true story, it is seriously faithful to the man's biography in real life.
Oh, that's good to know. I'm glad to hear that because
Absolutely.
I was like, Eddie Murphy is doing something that he feels is important.
Yeah.
I'm going to watch Dolemite. Like, it would be wrong of me not to watch Dolemite. So I watched Dolemite.
I must admit, and it will come as no surprise to you, I've been a Rudy Ray Moore fan since I was about 12, 13. Dolemite, Dolemite 2, The Human Tornado, P.D. Wheatstraw, The Devil's Son-in-Law, The Monkey Hustle, and of course, The Avenging Disco Godfather. I have owned his films first on VHS, put out by Xenon Video.
I saw that logo. Pretty cool, actually. Yeah.
So cool. Then DVDs, and now finally the Vinegar Syndrome Blu-rays, which are fantastic. I recommend to anyone Dolemite curious to get any of Rudy's films on Vinegar Syndrome, which are a nice replacement for the old DVDs. By the way, what is your relationship to blaxploitation in general? Do you have any favorite films?
No, I'm super removed from it. I think I saw Shaft once.
Oh, my goodness.
I never saw Dolemite. I don't
Jesus.
think I've ever seen another blaxploitation film.
Wow.
Ever. Yeah.
I'll tell you, we could not be more different. When I was a little kid, I thought Jim Kelly was a big star. Black Belt Jones and Enter the Dragon. I'll tell you something. If you want to watch a blaxploitation film that kind of people sleep on and flies under the radar, Truck Turner with Isaac Hayes.
I heard you say that earlier.
It is funny. It is cool. It is entertaining. Really love that. Shaft is great, obviously, but Black Caesar is great. I'm a big Larry Cohen guy. Yeah, there's so many good blaxploitation.
It's funny because I have always loved a lot about it. I've loved the music. I've loved the poster art.
Yeah. But you must love the graphics as a...
I'm a typical, though, New York City hipster asshole who likes all the trimmings around it and didn't see the fucking movies.
Right.
I'm literally like, I love everything about exploitations. Well, what are your favorite movies? Oh, I haven't seen any.
Yeah.
But I love everything about it, meaning around it, about it.
I almost said Dolemite, but I did kind of. I met Rudy Ray Moore at a Chiller convention back in the early 2000s, I believe, maybe 90s. He signed my Dolemite for President poster. I made him laugh. I don't know now what the hell I said, but my friend told me I made him laugh. I was so starstruck. I forgot what I said. Such a unique character. Even within the blaxploitation genre, he's a unique character because he got involved, as you can see in this film, he got involved kind of through a back door. The movie's tagline, Dave, is "Make your own legend," which is simple and it says it. And that's just what he did.
That's what made me stop and say, I have to watch this movie. I was like, this guy is the bulldozer of success. He's got it in a low gear and he's not going to stop until he's on the screen.
He's indomitable. Before we get rolling, I just want to say that this film is dedicated to the late, great Charlie Murphy. And so I think it's only right to dedicate this episode to both Charlie Murphy and Rudy Ray Moore. Two unique... And Prince.
Just for Charlie Murphy Prince thing. Yeah.
Three unique comedic talents sorely missed today. If you know Rudy's life, this film is very faithful to his journey. Every bit of it, the failed music career, the hobo named Rico, from which he took a lot of his material, right down to his horrible relationship with his father. He had talked about all of these things in interviews for years. And it's really lovely to see Rudy Ray Moore immortalized in such a thoughtful, sweet film. And this had been in the works for decades. I think early 2000s, Eddie Murphy and the Dream screenwriting team, my favorite screenwriting team of Scott Alexander and Larry Karaszewski, who did Ed Wood, who did People versus Larry Flint, who did People versus O.J. Simpson. The three of them had been talking about doing this since then. So I think like 2003. So it just goes to show you, even with A-list talent in front of and behind the camera, it takes forever and it takes a village to get a film made.
Yeah, which in a meta way points to how incredible Rudy Ray Moore was.
So as I said, this film is from 2019. It was directed by Craig Brewer, who did Hustle and Flow. Really cool film. I don't know if you've seen it.
I have.
Great music, which this one has as well. As I said, it was written by Scott Alexander and Larry Karaszewski. It was produced by Eddie Murphy, John Davis, and John Fox, and it stars Eddie Murphy. Dave, how much in general do we love Eddie Murphy, and how much do we love him in this thing? I mean, this is a guy who has never gotten his due as an actor, and I think it's just because he's so damn funny and he makes it look so easy that people think he's not doing as much as he does, but he is brilliant in this.
Yeah, I've always thought of Eddie as a brilliant man. I personally think he handled his fame and fortune so well. His Comedian in Cars Getting Coffee is one of the best three of that entire series of shows. Absolutely killer impressions of people saying things they would say in their voice. He's incredible. He's really great.
And, you know, people always talk about people pulling a De Niro or whatever. Eddie transforms himself for different roles. He was in that movie I Spy, and he looked like a boxer. He was cut. He was in great shape. In this one, he's quote unquote doughy, playing Rudy Ray Moore. And I'm sure when we see him in the next thing, he'll look, you know, svelte again. He does not get his due as an actor. And I just wanted to put that out there. He's absolutely brilliant. He can do it all too. Rudy Ray Moore was a kind of a failed singer. At times in this, Eddie will sing and he sounds great.
I mean, we all love My Girl Wants to Party All the Time already.
Party all the time, so. And Put a Boogie in Your Butt.
Feels good in your butt.
Album. Yeah. Let's jump into the movie. For those of you who don't know, Rudy Ray Moore was this failed singer. He worked at a record store, which is kind of a famous record store in LA, Dolphin's Music. The owner was John Dolphin. He had, I think, 2 radio stations that broadcasted from his record store, which was unique in itself. And that's shown in the film. The DJ is played by none other than Snoop Dogg. In a wonderful turn, we open on Rudy as a failed singer, and he's trying hard to hawk his 45s to a DJ in his record store, Snoop Dogg. And his outdated songs have names like Buggy Ride and Ring-a-Ling-a-Dong. And it's such a great introduction. It tells us so much. He's creative, but he's out of step. And he's older and has pretty much missed his shot. And it turns out he's working at that record store. He's not just in there trying to sell his record.
He doesn't take his cart of records and walk out the door.
No.
He takes it halfway across the store and gets behind the register.
Back to work, yes.
Yeah.
Just surrounded by music and artists that are way more successful to him. It's such a great kind of tableau. Rudy Ray Moore has transitioned from being a failed singer to a failed comic. He is emceeing at a club where they do musical acts. He's not going over very well. In a wonderful scene, before he's found his Dolemite calling, Rudy's on stage, he gets the light, and then he goes to his closer, which is something like, what did the elephant say to the naked man? How are you going to breathe through that small thing?
Yeah, it was rough. Yeah.
That's his closer, Dave. That's his like, all right, let me drop the hammer. Let me really get some laughs. It's terrible. He tries to get the owner to give him a starring spot.
His argument is so weak. He's like, I got great stuff. I do a thing where I wear a turban and I do a dance.
Do a shake dance or
I do a
something.
forbidden dance,
Oh,
and but that's the thing about this guy, Rudy Ray Moore, is he's just like, I got an idea, I got an idea. This is my new act. This is my new style. This is my new style. He has confidence in himself,
oh,
and it's great.
it's
Yeah.
great. But also, this is a guy he's missed his shot. He's behind the times.
Oh yeah, he's
You
late.
can tell in his character's language because everything is new. The club owner calls him out on it. He's like, well, I don't need a vaudeville act. It's
Yeah,
like
he's like,
vaudeville is
you're
dead.
talking vaudeville. Yeah.
Oh, come on. He calls the owner under his breath, rat soup eating motherfucker, just to show you it's not all Dolemite dress up. Rudy's got some of this kind of patter himself. The big change happens. And like any great film, you start off at this moment where things are about to change. And then we see the change. Rico, this hobo dude, he comes into the record store, as he does on the regular, asking for some money to buy soup because he doesn't have any teeth and he wants to eat. And he's doing these rhymes. He's signifying. He's snapping. He's doing all these things. And he introduces the story of Dolemite, which is an old story in the Black folklore tradition. And he's got this rhyming style and he's laying down this patter. And these were old jokes and old characters that people had written off as old-timey, you know, and Rudy Ray Moore polishes them up. He's like, listen, I'm a professional. And that's how he approached everything. I'm a showbiz guy. And if I can take these kind of rhymes and give them a unifying theme and give them better punchlines and kind of revamp them.
Bring them into the present. Yep.
Yeah.
But not all the way into the present. He reminds me a little bit of like Tom Waits that way. You're portraying this character that people love from a time just before when things seemed cooler. And it's very similar to what Waits did to get big. I'm going to sound like everybody 50 years before me, but I'm going to be right now.
Yeah.
The Dolemite thing works in a very similar fashion.
And there's a question at the heart of that. Did he steal from Rico? There's a scene where Dolemite tracks down Rico and his other hobo friends in an alleyway. Dolemite actually pays all of these gentlemen for their stories. He puts up a tape recorder and they're all like snapping on each other.
You're right. I mean, it's super important that from square one, he's paying dudes. He's not like, I can get whatever I want from these dumb dudes. I'll just set up a tape recorder and steal all their stuff. He's like, I got cash, I got booze, and you're not going to get a better deal than this. There is reciprocity. That's Rudy Ray. Like he's on the level.
He is. And there's a showbiz tradition of like, there are gag writers and you simply go to them and you pay them in cash. It's a kind of a work for a hire deal. So this is kind of exactly like that. And he's basically taking trash. He's taking something out of the garbage that no one values anymore. And he's turning it into something beautiful.
Dusting it off.
Dusting it off. It's a really unique thing because he is like these gentlemen. He's from another time. He's out of step. He's down on his luck. And he's making something out of nothing. He's waging a constant creative war of attrition, you know? And to see him break through is so rewarding.
That's that bulldozer thing I was talking about. This guy has a low gear that does not quit. Eventually his friends pointed out to him. It's really wonderful. Why are you stopping? You never stop. He's got a little tape recorder out. He's got a couple of little hip flasks. He's passing around booze. And he's slapping. I got more money. I got more money. He's putting more money down on the table. This is investing in his new idea. That's another thing. This guy invests in his ideas.
He bets on himself.
Behind himself. Yeah, he bets on himself.
The first appearance of Dolemite is on stage at that same theater where he had been dying every night as MC. And this time he's got a wig on. He's dressed kind of like a pimp. And
he got a staff.
Yeah. And he stands up there. And it goes over immediately. It goes so well. And he's supported by the band. Craig Robinson plays the kind of music star of that band.
Yeah.
Terrific as usual. And the band slowly goes up. The drummer first backs him and gives him like a rim shot. And Rudy is he's like, no, none of that old timey shit. He's like,
don't give me that Buddy Hackett shit.
Yeah, swing. And so he goes on the congas, just like
put some weight on it.
Yeah, and it's the first mention of put some weight on it, which, by the way, is going to be this episode's.
Of course it is.
Yeah, he goes from playing the snare drum, he goes to playing the congas, just like Gil Scott-Heron, just like The Last Poets, especially.
Mm-hmm.
And I love his little dance
Yeah.
that he
Yeah.
gets
That's
because he's
very Eddie
feeling
Murphy.
himself.
Yeah.
Oh,
That's
totally.
very Eddie Murphy.
He's
Yeah.
totally
Yeah.
feeling himself and feeling this character. Because we've seen his work ethic and we've seen how sad he is. He's got a very sad disposition. To see him
Yeah.
excited and happy and breaking through, it really warms the heart. And with the financial backing of his aunt, he makes a record. And his friends are so supportive. He's got his counterman at Dolphins Records as his producer. He's got his friend working the door. They do this kind of DIY, this kind of like Mickey Rooney
Classic
putting on a show.
assembly line, record in a sleeve, sticker on the bag, fold it, next.
Shrink wrapping.
Oh, with the hair dryer,
Shrink wrapping with the hair dryer. It's so punk rock even.
Yeah, and then you sell out of a trunk, which is like, again, it's like a little bit of a necessity is the mother of invention, because it's like every white dude wants a piece of this record that got made this way and was sold out of the back of a car. It's the best way to have people find out that this record first sold out of the trunks of cars. It's like, I want that record.
And it broke through where it had to. All the hip people had it. You know, it was very grassroots. And if you had that record, you were cool. And it had like the stamp on it for adults only. And like Laugh Records turned them down. And Laugh Records put out like the Richard Pryor album, the Craps album. People turning him down, like Laugh Records, becomes a refrain. Everybody turns him down, and then he does it himself, and he breaks through. He reaches the attention of Kent Records, who put out his album. This one finally has a picture on it, Eat Out More Often. You know, it sets the tone for Rudy's whole career, this kind of Rudy After Dark. He's naked, the lady's naked, and and it sells. I should have grabbed my Rudy Ray Moore album.
No joy.
I checked as many places as I could, and it didn't happen naturally. But ironically, this is what I did find: Boogie in Your Butt.
Great, man.
Yeah. So this record company believes in Rudy. They're like, everybody who's hip has this record, and so if we put it out, we'll reach hip people in all these different cities, which they do. It's a big success. Another success for Rudy that makes us so happy for him. And he goes on tour and he does the, you know, at the time, the Chitlin Circuit kind of tour. He suddenly has people opening for him. Like there's a scene with Bobby Rush opening for him, doing I Ain't Studdin' You. And Bobby Rush is probably one of those guys that Rudy Ray Moore was trying to be. You know, he was.
Yeah.
When we pick up Rudy, he's working in this record store and he's surrounded by records, by artists that had the success that was denied him. And here he is, and now Bobby Rush is opening for him. It's kind of a cool, amazing scene.
Yeah, because it's a meteoric rise in that here he is, he goes from working in a store that sells the records of his heroes to the hero warming up for him, but he's still working his ass off and living out of a suitcase.
Yeah, he's selling out of a trunk and he's living out of a trunk too.
Yeah. It's not the high life yet.
It's not. But his record makes the Billboard charts, as does the second record that has the signifying monkey on it. I think it's just called the second Rudy Ray Moore album. And it's during his tour for his album when he's down south, I believe. And we first meet Lady Reed, who is played by Davine Joy Randolph, our beloved Davine from The Holdovers, Dave.
Yeah, she was great.
And she plays Lady Reed, this
large and in
charge woman who Rudy pretty much takes under his wing and helps to bring her persona out and give her back a career, almost like Rudy rescued his own career. She used to be a backup singer. There's a wonderful song they sing together that's kind of a play on an old June Carter Cash duet she would do. Time's a Wastin', kind of, it reminded me of just the dirtiest song about
screwing. It was about screwing.
We'll say screwing for the family show. So she is on board now and part of Rudy's coterie of friends and coworkers. There's this wonderful scene. Rudy and his friends go to see the front page because
that is a great scene.
It's a great scene. Before that, even though, just to get back to what a beautiful generous person Rudy is, they're eating dinner and they're having a good time. And Rudy picks up the check all the time. Rudy is just a generous, sweet person who's very nice to the people around him. There's a lot of love there, you know?
Yeah, and this is a guy who, when his train starts moving, he looks at his friends and he says, "Everybody get on. Everybody get
Yeah.
on. Here we
Yeah.
go."
It's
Because
true.
a lot, a lot of people, when this success comes, is like, "Well, now I can get a real artist. Now I can get a real singer. Now I can get a real." It's like, no,
Hmm.
my friends are real. They're as real as I am, and they're coming with me.
Yeah. Rudy and his friends go to see The Front Page, which is a remake of an earlier film, but this one had Jack Lemmon and Walter Matthau. He wants to go because he convinces his friends they want to see like Blackenstein, or they want to see like, whatever's like the cool new hip movie. Instead, he's like, no, I want to see this one. Got great reviews, say it's really funny,
I want to
and
laugh.
I want to laugh.
Yeah.
And they're just puzzled and angered by the film, and rightfully so. I mean, that to build that as a laugh riot of a movie, it doesn't have laughs, it doesn't have titties, it doesn't have kung fu, it doesn't have
That's what he says,
any
all
of
that. Yeah.
the it doesn't have any of the ingredients of what makes a quote unquote great film. His being mystified by this film makes him believe that he deserves to reach that large of an audience. He wants to
Yeah.
be in that light that's
I
shooting
love
up on the
that line.
screen.
I want to be in that light.
Oh,
Yeah. I should be in that light. I deserve to be in that light.
mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. It proves that the movie is doing its job up until they go see the front page, because the movie has put you in a frame of mind where you look at the front page and you go, that is just white bread garbage.
Yeah.
Like and these are respected people being funny in the front page.
Yeah.
And if you showed that scene to me like out of the blue, but with the prep this movie has given me, I see that scene and I'm embarrassed for my people. Like, I'm like, that is bad.
Yeah, it's embarrassing. And also it's from a time, it was just like another in an assembly line of like, hey, this was a movie that did well in its time. Let's remake it, stick some stars in it,
Mhm.
and they'll swallow it. And they did.
There's an element to that scene where I think Rudy Ray Moore is thinking, this is what they're showing the world to make them laugh. Wait till they get a load of me.
Yeah. Yeah. Getting back to our refrain of people turning Rudy Ray Moore down, he then hits up all of the motion picture producers, and he's in AIP's office. He's in American International's office. They made a ton of entertaining films. That Roger Corman school of like, get it down, get it in on budget, and entertain the hell out of people. And they turn him down. It's not
Mhm.
even like he's sitting with MGM or Columbia. He's
Right.
with an independent producer that is really his best shot. And they're like, well,
Yeah.
we make films with Jim Brown, we make films with Richard Roundtree, and you're a lot doughier than them.
Yeah. He only takes
uh,
it a little personal, but he
yeah.
does take it a little personal.
So Rudy takes all of the profits from his records and he bets on himself, and he decides to make a Dolemite movie himself with his friends. And he gives them all jobs. He's like, to his assistant at Dolphins Records, he's like, your receipts always come down to the penny. You're the money man. And Craig
Mhm.
Robinson is in charge of the music.
Write me a
And
theme song.
yeah. And Mike Epps' character is in charge of the props and the wardrobe because he's always well dressed. And so it's this team effort. And they're in a strip club looking for talent,
Mhm.
looking for female talent to play kind of the sex workers and the karate girls in the film. And he sees a big star in their community at the time, D'Urville Martin, someone who has crossed over into Hollywood. He's the elevator operator in Rosemary's Baby. He even had a small part in Look Who's Coming to Dinner. And he was in a ton of blaxploitation films. Also, Dave, we did the Norman Lear tribute. In the 2 unaired pilots, D'Urville Martin played Lionel Jefferson.
Oh, wow.
And I think after we see Wesley Snipes' performance in this film, we can see why he was replaced
Yeah.
before
Yeah.
it actually went to air. Wesley Snipes plays D'Urville Martin. Just finishing up, D'Urville Martin is in the strip club with his girlfriend. Rudy approaches him, tries to get him to be in the film. He pushes back. And so he says, what about if you direct it? And so they got D'Urville Martin to direct. And I can't tell if I love Wesley Snipes' performance in this or if I hate it,
Yeah.
but I
I go
think I
back and
love it.
forth too.
I think
Mhm.
I love it. at the same time, if D'Urville Martin's estate wants to sue for libel, I think he's got a case because he's either drunk, high, or both through this entire movie.
Yeah,
It's a
yeah, yeah.
bizarre performance. Can we parse his performance for a second? Like, what did you think of Wesley Snipes?
At first, I was like, is Wesley Snipes trying to steal this movie? Like, is he going to over the top this character? But then he sort of ping pongs between this guy's a jerk and this guy's got some heart. Like when you eventually get that scene where everybody's like, the writer is like, what happened to my beautiful scene? And D'Urville Martin finally says something positive about the film. He goes, it was damn funny.
Yeah, it was funny as shit.
It was funny as shit. You're like, say what you will, but it was funny as shit.
Mm-hmm.
So once he started bouncing back and forth between belittling the picture, and of course he ends on completely belittling the picture.
Total dick.
Turns into a dick at the very end, yeah.
There's also another scene like what you're referring to where we see a little bit of the heart. He sees Rudy basically begging the Kent Records guys or the Ahari brothers, I forget what the family name is, asking his record company for like another 20 grand or something. And they're like, Rudy, you understand, we'll own your rights forever.
Yeah.
If you don't pay this back. And he's like, all right, I'm going to bet on myself. D'Urville overhears that. And he comes up to him after that. And he's like, all of the aggression, all of the disappointment, all of the people not believing in you, use it. Use it.
D'Urville's first moment as maybe I could be a director.
It's his only directing.
It's his only it's his directorial debut, and it's the only one.
Yeah. But I'll tell you something. I like the fact that they honored how difficult it was to work with D'Urville and the head trip he was on and other things he was on, because the people that were working on that film had to put up with so much from him. If you've heard any interviews with anyone who worked on the film, the writer of the film, Dolemite, Jerry Jones, played by Keegan-Michael Key, Jerry Jones has said for years just how impossible D'Urville Martin was to work with. So you want to honor how hard it was for the people making the film to work with D'Urville. They thought they were going to get something out of it working with a Hollywood person.
All they got was the name.
Yeah, that's all they got.
Yeah.
He was in the film as well, though.
Oh, yeah. Getting his guts ripped out.
Yeah, which is great.
In this movie, he provides something else. He provides his belittling of the crew and cast, provides a chance for Rudy Ray Moore to defend his efforts and their efforts. And he talks about it. We're a community. We're trying to do something together. We're all working for it.
So good. If a box really needs to get moved, I'm going to move the box.
Yeah,
if people are hungry, I'm going to go down and make sandwiches.
That's a great scene. And that scene is, D'Urville catalyzes that scene by belittling the crew and cast.
Yeah, the cinematographer is like, how do you want me to light this? And he's like, turn off all the lights, then we won't have to look at it. And Rudy throws him against the wall and reads him the riot act because this means something to them, you know?
Yeah. And it's a reminder that Rudy's not a user. It could easily be construed as he'll use anyone to get himself on top. And it's not what it is.
No.
It's not what it is. Yeah.
His success is their success. So maybe the most fun part of the entire movie is the making of the Dolemite movie. I'm so glad you saw the movie, Dave, because we can talk just a little bit about the movie within the movie. The plot of Dolemite is absurd in the most wonderful way. The warden calls Dolemite out of his cell where he's imprisoned to his office. Lady Reed is there. She is convinced the warden, who's a good friend of hers, she runs a house of ill repute and is good friends with the warden and the governor.
It's possible.
Which I can kind of, that's the best little whorehouse in Texas had that relationship.
That's true.
So I can kind of buy it. But the warden, and D'Urville Martin calls this out later, wardens are not law enforcement officers. And they don't release prisoners to go undercover and stop the drug trade and the gun trade from happening in their neighborhoods.
And yet it's not the first time Eddie Murphy's been let out of jail to solve a crime.
Oh, hello, 48 Hours.
Yeah.
There's a wonderful flashback within the warden's office where Dolemite is framed for a crime he didn't commit. He's actually framed for 2 crimes. There were like thousands of dollars worth of furs in his trunk and $500,000 in narcotics.
Heroin.
In his trunk.
Yeah.
And it's like, it wasn't enough to frame him for one or the other. We'll just throw it on there. Framed by an FBI guy or a CIA guy. Ridiculous.
No explanation of
No
why.
explanation why. It's just,
Yeah,
we got to get this guy in jail. I don't even think enough furs and narcotics existed in the evidence locker to plant on Dolemite, but you get enough of a sense of the original film to realize that it's not exactly Citizen Kane.
This is when I decided to go back and watch Dolemite. I think it was when they started shooting. I saw the warden's office pieced together with they're like, we have a desk, we have one piece of art that might be on the wall at a warden's office. We have a chair, and we're going to put it in the corner of this hotel and try to make it look like the warden's. And I said, I got to see this goddamn movie.
And it's so faithful when you see it. They've recreated every scene.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the interiors were shot at the Dunbar Hotel, which was once a center of downtown arts that had fallen into disrepair. And it's lovely to see that brought back, much like Rudy Ray Moore was brought back to its prime. Yeah. The plot of Dolemite is gloriously ridiculous, but it just proves that plot is secondary to endearing characters. You know, audiences will excuse anything plot-wise if you give them a good time and people they can root for and believe in.
If you said to Rudy Ray Moore, there's no plausible way to get Kung Fu into your movie, his response would be, well, then put it in an unplausible way. Because it's got to have Kung Fu.
Yeah, it's big at the time. And there's this wonderful spitballing scene between Jerry Jones and Rudy Ray Moore. You know, Jerry is trying to be like, he comes from theater and he's been trying to put the plight of the streets up on the stage and now the screen, and he wants it to be real and gritty and tell the tale. And Rudy is like, put in, you know, exorcisms, put in everything.
I want a machine gun. I want Kung Fu.
He wants Bruce Lee. He wants Linda Blair. He wants all of the hot stuff right then because people love it. And that's why Dolemite hit as a movie. And Rudy gets the film made. The movie being made and getting made is the success. And he pays everyone their money. Everyone gets a salary except for Rudy. And he uses all of his royalties. He uses all of the money he borrowed. They run out of film. He borrows more money. He's in debt. And then he's got the film, which is a major victory. But then to sell it is another battle. This section where he's trying to sell his film to people and he's calling people, this section reminded me, and then I thought of all the other scenes that reminded me of the film Ed Wood, also written by Karaszewski and Alexander, where Ed is lugging his film cans around town. He's trying to get in business with people. And Rudy Ray Moore and Ed Wood have a lot in common. You know, they're both indomitable. They both bet on themselves. Each had a charisma that could really rally their friends to their cause. And there's even another scene when the cast is driving to the Dolemite premiere where they're reading the film's negative reviews. And it's like in Ed Wood, where his cast reads their negative reviews after their badly received play, you know, and both films end with a movie premiere. Like there are some parallels that I think work really well. And much like Ed Wood, I love the fact that Rudy can smile and keep striving and will not be told no.
To the point where he can hear a no as a yes. One of the reviews says, this movie is terrible. It's coarse. It's rude. It's gross. I forget the exact words. But he goes, there's a good one right there. That's a good one. And they're like, how is that a good one? He's like, those are all the reasons people are going to come see it.
I got to see how gross this is.
That's a list of reasons to see my movie.
Yeah. Rudy makes the film. He tries to sell it. No one's buying. Crosses off all of the studios. After the film is shot, he's almost worse off than before because he doesn't own his royalties anymore. Chris Rock makes an appearance as a DJ in Indianapolis, I believe, who hooks him up with a cousin who manages a movie theater. And they four-wall the film, which is a pay-to-play thing where for $500, he is able to show Dolemite and he gets to keep all the ticket sales. So if he promotes, he can make a lot of money. Again, if it's up to Rudy, if it's on his back and it's all down to promotion, there's no way he can fail. And so he plays it. It's a big success and it brings him to the attention of Dimension Pictures International, the head of which is played by Bob Odenkirk, who is fantastic in everything, who is, of course, from Better Call Saul. And before that, Mr. Show, with David Cross,
Yeah.
brilliant comedy series. This guy watches the trade magazines every week and he sees the ridiculous amount of ticket sales that he was getting out of nowhere on his own back. Rudy, who once pitched this company and got turned down, now has Dimension Pictures pitching him. And he brings his whole crew with him. And they all dress up like characters in the Dolemite movie.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful scene. And they're on one side and Dimension Pictures is on the other side of the table. And it almost turns contentious. And Rudy says this wonderful line, "Why for come I need you?" You know, every once in a while, Rudy's kind of Southern roots come out, and it's beautiful. It's like,
he uses a good fixin' to or a finna as well.
Yeah, finna.
Somewhere. Yeah.
So he is in bed with Dimension Pictures, and they have a movie premiere. And as I said, he's in the limo with his cast. They read the bad reviews on the way, and Rudy does what he does so well. He rallies the troops. And he has them all smiling. And he says, "You should be proud of yourselves. I'm proud of myself. We never did this before. This is amazing that we got this done." He lifts their spirits.
Basically says, let's make a pact that no matter what happens, we stay happy. We stay proud. Yeah.
It's great that they did that because they did that and they made their pact before they get to the theater and they see the big crowds.
Yeah. Best of both worlds.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
And so they get in front of the theater and they're like, oh my God, they see the line around the corner.
It's a mob. Yeah.
It's a mob. They sold out the 10 o'clock. They sold out the midnight show. And the guy is like, I'm going to have to add a 2 a.m. show just to keep people happy. And Rudy is there with his crew. Everybody's going inside. Lady Reed is kind of laying back. She's like, hey, Rudy, let's go. Rudy is staring at the crowd. And he's like, I got to stay here. These people, they got to wait till 2 a.m. I can't leave them out here. They came to see Dolemite. And he stays out there and he talks with the little kid. He shares time with them and he entertains the people as Dolemite. Yeah. And that's how we leave him. The film ends up making over $10 million. And it costs like, say at the most, it costs like $100,000, $140,000, whatever. But it's a pittance. And it makes over $10 million. And those are 1975 dollars, Dave.
Right.
Which I believe is 12 billion today. It's like ridiculous.
It is a massive amount of money.
And so he got to make all the other films after that. Dolemite 2, Human Tornado, is even more fun, I feel, than the first film. Mm-hmm. I love that the film itself ended with a few clips of the real Dolemite, Rudy Ray Moore. Yeah. I love that they gave him that. Also, people aren't going to... Maybe they would, but they're not going to appreciate what Eddie did, what the filmmaker did, what the writers did, as much as they will after seeing the clips from the real Rudy.
That's why I went back and watched it. I knew I was going to feel like a fake. Like I was going to have heartfelt pride for Rudy Ray Moore, and it was going to be based on nothing. It was going to be based entirely on Eddie Murphy. I was like, I have to watch this movie now. And then when they were showing actual Rudy Ray Moore clips, the car chase clips, Rudy with his ass hanging out and like in scenes like where he gets caught with his pants down with a woman. And now these were scenes I was familiar with, and I felt good about having had watched it.
Yeah, it's so well done. Are there other things you want to bring up?
You know who I really loved in it was Titus. Titus
Burgess.
Titus Burgess, yeah.
Oh yeah, let's talk a little bit about Titus. Titus Burgess as Theodore Toney was so good, kind of an openly gay character. And you know, a lot of people don't know this, but Rudy Ray Moore himself was at least bisexual, but probably gay. Mm-hmm. He had gay relationships in his life, and the Dolemite character was one way that he would cover it up. That's one reason I'm very glad that the Tony character was in this film. It was almost a subliminal signaling of the kind of lifestyle he lived and the kind of friends he had. And I love also that it was never commented upon.
Yeah. There was one line where I believe Rudy Ray Moore said, "Don't nobody need to hear about that."
Yeah, they're at a cookout.
Yeah, at the cookout, yeah.
He's like, people are having a nice time at a cookout. Nobody's trying to hear that.
But I feel like Titus's character sort of evolved. He was sort of less outward about who he was. As the success came, he was able to dress more of who he really was, act more as who he really was, which what success will do for you. It'll let you be yourself because you're in a safe place. He's surrounded by friends and he's able to be himself. And it's a terrific character, and it's terrific to watch the people around him treat him just like anyone else. And I've always loved that guy. You know, I learned him from that Kimmy Schmidt show. Like,
Yeah, the unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt.
yeah, he was like her roommate or something.
He has a wonderfully expressive face.
Yeah, and a beautiful, sort of adorable voice.
Yeah.
His voice, he could be one of the Golden Girls. He's like a feminine, uplifting voice. It's really nice. Wanted to give him his props.
No, that's a really good call out. Let me also just call out Ron Cephas Jones as Rico. That's an easy role to kind of phone in and to be over the top. This guy had a dignity to him, and he played him with a kind of almost Shakespearean quality. Very cool and very self-possessed.
That was important. He laid out that character in a way that reminded you, like, this guy's not a bum.
Yeah.
You know, Rudy Ray saw it.
Rudy was a great judge of character. In closing, you know, we've said it before about other roles. If you don't get Eddie Murphy for this, or if this isn't an Eddie Murphy project, who do you get? He is the list.
Yeah.
I'm so glad, too, that back when they were talking about doing this for the first time, that Rudy was involved and Rudy was aware, and Rudy talked to Eddie and talked to the screenwriting team and told his stories. So Rudy at least knew that this was in the works before he died. He at least knew that someday this would get made. I'm glad he had that.
Yeah. And every single victory that guy gets, he deserves. When this movie was over, I was like, man, I hope that the first thing Hollis says is that this was told very true, very close to the truth, because it's terrific.
Yeah, it is. Well, I hope this kickstarts your deep dive into some blaxploitation.
Nah, you know, the next movie I'm going to watch is A League of Their Own. So, there's just no time. There's no time.
All right, pal. Ring a ding dong. Ring a ling a ding dong.
Oh, that was a great scene, too.
Hollis and Dave would like to thank you for enjoying Pop Culture Graveyard.